Hi everyone, this is how I went this for the first round, or round one. Pretty ordinary, not the best. Could be a lot worse. So there's a few late changes that I made which end up having a negative impact, which we'll have a look into. Some of the rookies were disappointing, and some of the more experienced players also weren't particularly that great either. So I'll just have a look. So yeah, just inside the top 50,000, which isn't ideal. Uh, but I have had worse round ranks in the past. It is a bit tough round one because you don't know who's good, and it's just some players take a while to get into the rhythm. So we'll start off with Sheasel. Had him as captain in the end. I was tossing it between Sherry and Sheasel, and I lost 16 points from that. So it's not a huge deal. It is a little annoying, but they're both were going to score well. I was just hoping he might get that 130, 140 score. But it wasn't to be. Not a complete disaster, but for a captain, you probably want a little bit higher score. Because my vice captain Sarong didn't do particularly that great, but they still was one of Frio's better players in what was a disaster game for them. And then Max Holmes, 125. Happy with that selection. Yeah, it's paying dividends at the moment. I know they won by quite a lot against Freo, so they did dominate Geelong. So I'm not expecting this every round, but it looks like it's a good decision at the moment. And then Matt Roberts, 95, started off slow but finished the game strong. I think actually once Brisbane started playing better, he actually started improving, sort of got a bit more of the ball. So look, 95, we'll take that. And then Perryman, this is where things start to fall down a little bit. 62 is not quite good enough. Now, I can see a lot of people going to get rid of him this week, which we'll discuss trades in a minute. I'm on the fence about getting rid of him because it wasn't a disaster score in terms of like below 50, but it wasn't particularly that great either. And Collingwood did win by a lot, so it's tough to gather what Perryman's role is and what his. Is he a trap? Was it just a one-off? Still think it was probably a bit more of a below-average game by his standards. I'm still, unsure what to do with him this week. No, just simply because, the lack of rookie coverage we've got for the defence isn't particularly that great. And then one of the highlights for the round for me was Fraser getting 109 with Ballydale, which is great. It was a bit of a surprise. I thought was one of going to be the high risk moves that I picked were going to fail. To be honest, wouldn't say necessarily fail, but it was less likely to succeed. So he got 109. I'm happy with that. I wasn't expecting that. But if he can continue that form, or at least maintain like a 90 average, that'd be good enough to do a bit of an upgrade or downgrade season. And then we've got Cleary, 25, which is one of the more disappointing players in my side this week. Disappointing. You can believe he got concussed in the last 5-10 minutes. So I don't think he'll be playing next week. So he probably has to go potentially. We'll see on that. Because the problem is with the defense, there's no really other good rookies to downgrade to. What I can do is maybe downgrade or upgrade a particular player here. I mean, I've still got 122,000 here, so I could potentially upgrade Cleary to another decent mid-pricer, but who are those decent mid-pricers we've already got Fraser and Roberts in Perryman here. Who is the other mid-pricer? So I'll have to work out what I'm going to do here with the defence. It's sort of giving me headaches. It might be best to leave it. And then we go on to got Reed here, got 45, who was disappointing. Like a lot of the Essendon defenders were pretty disappointing. Was the main reason why we lost the game. So Reed, 45, is just... I guess it's his first game back, so I'm not going to expect too much. But it's not a score you want on field, but still scored more than Cleary. So, it was worth taking that risk, taking that gamble. But and then we've got Leak here, who's not going to be playing next week, and he scored 13. So he's probably one you could upgrade to a better rookie, or maybe leave as a loophole. Still not too sure what to do with him. Probably best to just leave him because there's other issues I want to fix. And then on to the midfield, we've got Sarong, 102, which is, pretty average. I mean, he was one of their better players in a terrible performance. The thing is, he is one of the primos that I do have in my sides. You want him to score around at least 110, 115. At least he got to 100. But as a VC, you sort of want him to score a bit more for you. Rosie, 128, was probably their best player in an absolute smashing. Pathetic performance by Port Adelaide is simply not good enough. I don't think they'll make finals this year now. I mean, I could be wrong. They don't look like a final side at the moment. It is round one. They could, go back to gear. They do have Richmond next week. So I'm expecting them to bounce back, and you could potentially get like a 150, 160 score Rosie. So you could probably have the captain or vice captain on him. When do they play? So Saturday, the middle of the week. So you could put the VC here, then maybe put a captain on a Sherry or a Sheasel here. Well, Brisbane got West Coast. So if you've got a Dunkley or Neil, you could put a captain on them, or even a Zorko, potentially. So look, one happy with the 128. And then Oliver, 93, so maybe slightly disappointing. It is round one. So mediocre. It sort of reflects his price, 93. So he's probably going to remain that price if he performs at that same level. Who did Melbourne got? So they got North Melbourne, so it is a good chance for him to get an above 100 score, maybe 110, 120. So hopefully he does do well. I can't guarantee anything, but he should at least get, at least 100, I'm predicting. Hopefully I'm right. And then Finn Callahan, 104. A solid score from him. So he's going to go up in price. Not this week because he's got a bye, but the week after he's going to go up. So that seems like a good selection at this stage. Not as good as the previous week, but it was in a tougher conditions. It wasn't particularly the best match for playing footy. And then you got Will Ashcroft, 73, which is one of the more disappointing midfielders in my team, simply because he had a good finals run. It is round one. The problem is he's probably still, third or fourth midfielder in the side. In hindsight, was it a good idea selecting him? Yes or no? Who knows? They are playing West Coast this week, so he could potentially get like a 110, 120 score. So I'll just hold on to him for now. There's bigger issues in my side. If he gets that 120 score, 110 or even 100, he's not going to lose any value. Might even increase. And then Nathan O'Driscoll. So, I'll end up ordering him as a last-minute trade-in. Just think there's more upside with it, and he has performed decent in the past. 91. Happy with that. That's better than expected. And he should be able to continue to play on. Job security should be there. So I'm happy with that change. That was one of the last minute decisions that I made that ended up going well. We'll discuss the disaster in the forward line in a minute. And then we've got Shardis, 50. So it was probably the most disappointing midfielder I have on my side. It was the lowest scoring. And look, he had a terrible first half, but did bounce back in the second half, which is pretty good. So he can, get a lot of disposables pretty quickly, but his efficiency just isn't there. It's not quite as good as some of the other midfielders at Essendon. And that's the reason why he's been struggling to get a game. He dominates well at VFL by getting a lot of disposables, but they're not as impactful as someone who only gets like a 20 disposable game, but is a bit more efficient by foot. So that's something that Sardis has to work on, or try and limit it. Try and make his disposables a little bit more effective. He might be a trade out this week by the looks of it, because there's a few other midfielders I want to bring in. And then Nivet, so 82 is better than expected. I was expecting about a 60 or 70, but they dominated Geelong. They played well, so that should cement his spot in the side, which is great. And Levi Ashcroft, 84, scored more than his older brother, so it's a bit embarrassing for Will Ashcroft. But look, just hold on to him. and keep him for now. I might have to swap him for Sardis and get rid of Sardis. Maybe bring on another rookie. We'll have to wait and see. And then Hasty brought him on the last minute. And scored 53, which is mediocre. I mean, they did get smashed St Kilda, and they've got Geelong this week at Marvel, so it's not going to get potentially any easier, though it is at Marvel, which might suit St Kilda more, because they were terrible against Adelaide. It was one of the worst sides of the week. And then you got Camperale, 56, which is okay. Did alright the first half, but faded away in the second half like most of his other teammates. Then Sherry, 122, which is a decent score, but didn't go off like a 140, 150. I mean, I could have put him as captain and got 16, but I was on the fence about it. It didn't cost me too much. And then Matt Flynn, 87, which is a decent score, in an absolute smashing as well. West Coast, another team that was completely destroyed by a mediocre side. Although Gold Coast could be good this year, we still don't know about that. I mean, it was still, one of the better players in the team. I mean, 87 in an absolute smashing is all right. So if it continues at that same, level, he should go up in price. And then you've got Boyd here, 63, which is very good for his price. And if he can continue to keep his spot, which I'm unsure about after that smashing, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, he's going to go up in price if he even just continues to score 60. That's all I really need. And if he can get a couple of goals, that's even better. And then on the 4 line here, this is where things starting to get a bit of a mixed response here. So we've got Horn Francis 83, which is a little disappointing from him. We expected a bit better. It's not an absolute disaster. I mean, everyone has Horn Francis, so I'm not going to make a huge big deal about it. I'm not going to, go on about it for a couple of minutes. And same with Rankin, 128, another player that everyone has who performed really well in a dominant win, which is sort of what we want. And same with McRae too, 127, did phenomenal when in an absolute smashing. So, look, happy about that. Those are the 3 players that everyone has, so I'm not going to go into too much discussion. It doesn't matter if they perform well or not, because everyone has them, unless it's an absolute outlier. Whether they played really well or very good, there's no point me really, discussing those 3 players too much. And then we've got Sanders, 64, which was another 50-50 selection I was thinking about. Should I go with him? Because I've offloaded a few players this season, Bulldogs. I'm just thinking, is he going to get a better role? He dominates the VFL, but again, the VFL is a lot, weaker. And he's still a young kid as well. And looks like a 16-year-old. So 64 is not quite good enough, but it's not an absolute disaster for his price. It's probably going to be a hold. I know they did play North Melbourne, and you were hoping for a little bit more. Who do Bulldogs play this week? So they've got Collingwood, so it's probably a mediocre matchup. And Collingwood got an average midfield. Do have Dacos, but yeah, I'll probably just hold on to him. There's no need for me to do anything. And Daniel did alright, nothing crazy. And then Davidson 39. It was disappointing. So this was a bit of another disappointing night. During that game. So you got Davidson and Cleary for that game, both scored under 50, and it sort of cost me a bit. And had them on the field. So against North Melbourne, I was expecting to probably perform a little bit better, but he's still young as well. So this one's probably going to be a hold. We'll just soon see. All right, is one other player who want to get rid of before Davison. And then we've got Kako, 62, who did all right. And is probably ahead of Davidson, let's say, at this stage, or this looks more promising at the moment. But who knows? So we've got Adelaide this week. So is before that, so you probably want to switch Kako there. At this stage. And if Davison does well, I can still, because Connor Stone got 42, which is mediocre, but he's still got to go up in price. But he's not playing this week, so if Cornerstone gets selected, he could be even a dead rookie or potentially still be in the side. Leake's probably going to go. I don't think his job security is really on the line now after that performance. And then we're on to the flex position. 18 from Powell Pepper, which is the worst performing player, other than Leake. I was expecting much more from Powell Pepper since he's in the leadership group and he's been there for a while. A bit frustrating, to be honest. This Saturday night was just frustrating in general with some of the Supercoach picks that we had. Other than Fraser, just everyone else was a bit of a disaster. And Rosie, I guess, as well. But look, what I'm going to do, I think Powell Pepper has to go, even though he's got Richmond. His break-even's 49, and if I bring in like someone like a Max Hall, who's cheaper, get that extra 70k, potentially do an upgrade to Cleary to a Sam DeConning, which is what I was thinking of doing. That way, I'll probably still hold Perryman, just simply because he's still hopefully going to average 70, 80, even if he's not going to make much money. This is no good rookie, defenders that are really, that are absolutely killing it at the moment. Zach Reed 45, Leak 13. That's just terrible. I was expecting a little bit more from Cleary, hoping to get at least 60 or 70 or an 80 type score. So he might even be out. I'm not too sure about that. So what I'll do now is I'll get rid of Powell Pepper just simply because there's just more money to be made. We've got to bring in. Max Hall, so yeah, there we go. Yeah, Max Hall's there. So that's one that I'm going to do. And that will leave with enough to get rid of it. So Sam DeConning did alright, so I could probably get rid of Cleary. Sam DeConning, do I have enough? Not quite. I need to do another trade for that. So I probably could do. I can do the boost. So yeah, get rid of Powell Pepper. Get rid of Cleary. And who else to get rid of? We'll get rid of Sardis. And then what we'll do here. Bring in Reed. Xavier Lindsay, bring him in. He did well. And then the Conning. Now I know some people want Perryman to go, but I just feel like there's no really decent defenders, as I mentioned earlier in the video, and it is top 18 players as well for this round going into it. So even if you've got a player who isn't performing that great, or you've got players who aren't playing, it's not going to be a huge deal. But if I can have at least 6 decent defenders, I know it's a bit of a weird setup this year with defence. Usually have at least 1 or 2 rookies. So I know everyone's not going to agree with me in saying, you should get rid of Perryman, but I mean, 62 is not terrible, and he scored 90. So I don't think he's going to lose too much. He might even, if he performs well next week and gets 100, he might even go up in price. So I just think people are overreacting a little bit. I just think there's other areas where you can gain more money and stop the bleed in some other areas, in my opinion. Because what you've got here, more Perryman, you got Sanders, people getting rid of him. It all depends what other players you do have and don't have, and what your decisions. You got Bailey Smith. I could probably bring Bailey Smith in. That's one player I got rid of in the last minute, who I should have brought in, who I should have just stayed in my side, but wasn't expecting him to perform that well. So maybe I could bring in Smith, but I only got 25. I just think I'd rather focus on, defence. Maybe I could get rid of Sanders for Smith. I guess that's what a lot of other people are doing too. And with Harry Perryman, I mean, I'll probably leave Perryman, to be honest. It's probably one of the more overreactive, selections in my opinion. I just think that's a bit, silly, particularly with a lack of defenders. Seems like people going Perryman and then down to Conning at this stage. Or maybe I could keep Cleary and could bring in Bailey Smith, which looks like it's one of the most traded selections. Which is, well, I'm not surprised, but it's a little bit of overreactionary. I mean, having 147 in your system, so he's going to gain you money unless he has an absolute disaster 2 weeks. And who did Geelong got? So they've got St Kilda that week, and then the next week, which is a good matchup. And then you've got Brisbane, which is not ideal again, probably the worst matchup against the best midfield in the comp. So he'd probably do all right against St Kilda, but Brisbane might be a tough matchup for him. Leak is another one. Probably won't get rid of him this week, but maybe next week. Thing is, if he still plays, he's still going to give you a bit of money. So that's what I mean. All depends. You can use him as a loophole, generate cash. I can see why people are getting rid of him. But who else are you going to bring in defence? No one else is really bringing any rookie defenders in. You got Ned Long. I'm averaging 71, so you could bring him in for the price ride this week. I can see why people are doing that. And then Corey Wayner, which is another midfield or another forward you can bring in too. So maybe you can get rid of perhaps a Power Pepper as well. Well, I want to leave that for now. I just think there could be some other selections I could change. It all depends on if Cleary's not playing, he's gone, and then. But I do want to bring Bailey Smith in now, though. Get rid of the Sanders. Might be a better option there. And I have to bring Lindsay in too. We'll just have to wait and see on that. Either way, look, mediocre week. It's round 1, so I'm not going to overreact too much. I think people are overreacting with Perryman a little bit, just simply because there's just not enough coverage in the back line. I'd rather have another mid-pricer there than a rookie. He's got better job security. He's been in the system for a bit longer. Then chuck out Perryman for the Connie and get only 50 and then have a risk of a crummy score on field. It's just, it just seems silly that people aren't doing that. I can see why, but I just think there's better options where you're going to leak a little bit more or you'll be able to gain more from it. That's my opinion on that. I know people aren't going to agree with me, but it is only round 1. Who knows? Lindsay can bomb it out. They do got North Melbourne in round 2 though, so that could potentially be a decent score. I just think it's hard to tell with only one match after round 2. Then you sort of got a better idea on what break even they do need for round 3. I do think though you could potentially bring in a Sydney player, maybe a Wayner in for a trade, because he's going to guarantee you that price rise if he is selected, and potentially Ned Long, but Ned Long is 200,000, Lindsay's 158, so keep that in mind too. Wayne is 148, so it's not too cheap, but it's average for a rookie. Look. It'll be good with these GWS players too if they were playing and make it a little bit easier, but they're not. So, and then in regards to everything else, so we can obviously swap him, and then obviously anyone else. So that's really it for my main team. So I'm going to have a lot of players playing anyway. This bye, it's not going to kill my side. As a rookie option at this stage, I'll put in Rowley. It's Hawthorn. It's going to be a bit of a tough matchup. No, Hawthorn. It's not too bad. But Reed, rookie. Emergency. Then Davison. He's playing there, so emergency option would be ideal for them. Leave Kako on, and the flex is Max Hall. Vice. Well, North Melbourne are playing there, and who they're playing against Gorn. So Sherry's probably against two of the top ruckmen. It's probably not ideal. Vice captain, where they played last round. It's not particularly that great either. You know what? Holmes is playing there too. There's no real good player here. Maybe a Ranklin against Essendon, but even then, that's very high risk too. You know what? I'll take the ballsy pick and go Rosie as VC into Richmond. He could get like a 140, 150 score again. If they bounce back and win by 10 goals, Rosie's going to get that 140 score because Butters is out. He's and then as a captain option, Sarong and Sydney, they got decent midfield, so I'll probably go with Sheasel again. I just think, Sherry on Gorn, two great ruckmen. There's no point picking a captain for either of them. I mean, they could both score well, and they probably will, but the likelihood of them getting 150 or 160 or even a 140 is a bit lower this week. So, I wouldn't do that if you're a Gorn or Sherry owner. Put them as a captain. I'll go with Sheasel. I mean, I could be wrong. Sherry can outscore Sheasel again. It's going to be interesting. A Sherry Gorn matchup. That's pretty much it. So average week. There's still a few things I could change. I could bring in a Smith. But I should never have got in Power Pepper. But again, he could bounce back against Richmond and score 100, kick a couple of goals, and then it wouldn't be as a big deal. So who knows? But I think Max Hall's at a lower price. You can use that extra cash to upgrade potentially. I mean, in my situation, upgrade Cleary to Conning if Cleary isn't playing. I just feel the job security is just a lot stronger. All right, thank you for watching and have a great week.